Warning. You are entering a restricted area. Return to where you came from, or be destroyed.
You're heading your way towards the useless nerdy knowledge. Please do not go any further. If you will not comply, you will hear a nerd rambling.
Nerd alert!
Get those nerds! 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 Nerds!
Exterminate!
Go ahead, make my day.
Bazinga!
I'll be back.
Groovy!
Hello, fellow podcast listeners. My name is Ben, and welcome to another Christmassy episode of Useless Nerdy Knowledge. Again, I know that it's a bit late or whatever to make yet another episode, but, again, whatever. Like I said, I make these whenever I can, all that stuff. So, this episode, I wanted to talk about a bit of an opposite list that I made last year. Last year, I made myself a list of my own personal list of top 10 favorite Christmas movies. Basically, like Christmas movies I love or had a very sentimental feeling towards, or it's just one of those like family movies I remember watching as a kid that like I have a passion for, or just it has a special place in my heart, basically like sentimental value. But for this list, it's not like a professional list per se. Like this is just like a little dollop of stuff I put together of like some of the worst ever Christmas movies ever conceived by man so far. There's probably worse Christmas movies out there, but this is basically a list of like the worst of the worst, whether it was released in theaters or not, or whatever. If it was like on TV or direct to video or what, it doesn't even matter. These are basically like a list of like some of the worst Christmas movies I could like find, and surprisingly, they're still being made to this day. But anyway, before I get all into that, since the whole Christmas season's around the corner, before I get to the list, I do want to bring up some quick honorable mentions. So the first one for the honorable is called Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July. This is one of those like later series in the Rankin Bass movies of Rudolph and Frosty. Only this time, I think this is like the only movie that I'm aware of where Frosty the Snowman's like all claymation or whatever. But I have not seen this all the way through yet. I've only seen like little pictures of it basically. Like I have it on DVD. I just haven't had the chance to watch it. But from what I've seen from like many different like review lists or top 10 lists of like worst Christmas movies, this one seems to be up there. I mean, I guess so, but again, I guess I didn't really prepare ahead of time enough to actually put this on the list. But in my eyes, even though it's still Rankin Bass and all that, I don't really know if I would consider it to be at the top of the list of worst, because it's still anyway, I'm getting all biased or whatever, so I'm just gonna move on. The next one I found was called Santa with Muscles. This is stars Hulk Hogan, and he's Santa. And I have not seen this movie either, but from what I can tell, it looks pretty bad. I'm just assuming it's just because Hulk Hogan needed an excuse to like beat up people in Santa costume or something. I don't know. Next from that, and lots of people would agree on this, is the Santa Claus 3, where it has Tim Allen returning as Santa, and this time it has Martin Short as the antagonist, or Jack Frost basically, where the whole idea is that like they swap places, basically. It's almost like Freaky Friday, or you could say it's like sort of like Shrek Forever After the final chapter, where it's like, had he never had the Santa costume or took place of Santa, he never became Santa and became worse or something like that. Many people have said that this is basically like, obviously the worst of like the Santa Claus trilogy or any Christmas movie, really. I remember watching it very young as a kid, and I don't remember anything about the movie other than they just swap places. That's literally it. I don't remember anything else from the movie. And then, of course, another one is called Jingle All the Way 2, where I don't even know if I would count this as a sequel towards the original Jingle All the Way starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, because this one stars Larry the Cable Guy. And I'm not going to say anything else about it because, you know, with something like that, and when it stars, you know, Larry the Cable Guy, you know, it's doomed to fail, which is a weird pattern because with Dwayne The Rock Johnson starring in the forgotten comedy The Tooth Fairy, Larry the Cable Guy starred in a movie called The Tooth Fairy 2. So, am I noticing like a weird pattern going on? Anyway, and then I guess you could say another honorable mention or mentions to add to the list would be all of the other Home Alone sequels. You know, like Home Alone 3, which was the last Home Alone movie to be released in theaters. Didn't have any of the original cast. No Macaulay Culkin. No, none of the original characters. No McAllisters. No nothing. All I had was just a young Scarlett Johansson, like her preteens, I want to say, and that's about it. All I can remember from Home Alone 3 is that, like, you know, the kid is sick, and he's, like, you know, trying to convince his parents that there's, like four people, like, I don't know, it's a weird plot, it's still directed by John Hughes, it gets a pass for now, but it's still not great. The other ones that I'm talking about are, like, Home Alone 4, where it brings back the McAllisters, but does not bring back the original cast at all. This was also in one of those direct-to-video movies. And then Home Alone 5, The Holiday Heist, nobody remembers that at all. They may be wondering about the other Home Alone sequel. I'll get to that in due time. So starting off the list at number 10 is Christmas with the Cranks. Many people consider this to be a really painfully bad movie. It's another Christmas movie that stars Tim Allen, but it also has Jamie Lee Curtis, and also stars Dan Aykroyd, and Cheech Marin's in there for whatever reason as a cop, and it has Dewey from Malcolm in the Middle. And basically, it's like the whole, I guess, plot you would say about this is how, you know, they're trying to save up money or something and try not to worry so much about Christmas as last year, and everyone gets on their nerves like, oh, look at those idiots, they don't like Christmas. And I don't know. Honestly, the whole movie is like really freaking weird, and I haven't seen the movie all the way through, but I've seen enough of it. Like, I've seen people's reviews on it, and I've seen enough clips to know what it's about. And yeah, it doesn't look anything at all. No, I take that back, because I actually kind of remember our science teacher had us watch it like for Christmas one year, like around December, basically. I want to say it was like one of those days before, our Christmas vacation was in high school or whatever, and we watched it. We were given the option to watch it or whatever, and I don't remember enjoying it because it's just one of those movies that nobody really cares about or nobody really seems to like. And I don't blame them, really. I really don't blame them. Next at number 9, we have Deck the Halls, starring Danny DeVito and Matthew Broderick. Again, this is another one of those movies I've not seen all the way through, but I've seen enough clips of it to basically been told that many people hate this movie. The whole idea of this movie is that, like, Danny DeVito's character is trying to put enough lights on his house so that way he could see his house from, like, a satellite dish in space or whatever. And it's literally, like, the dumbest. It's, like, not that good of acting, and it's just, like, I don't know. The way I've seen it, it's just not great. I'm just going to leave it at that. If you want to see it for yourself, go ahead. I'm just not really going to plan on ever seeing it. Now, for a movie that I was unfortunate in it, unlucky enough to see it, I got to see A Christmas Story 2. This is like the second Christmas Story sequel, and at the moment there are 3 Christmas Story sequels. And you're like, wait, what? Yes, technically there are. There's, of course, Christmas Story was based on a book, and I want to say it was like on a series of books, and one of the, I guess, sequels or side stories, or whatever you want to call it, that was also based on a book was called My Summer Story. The only returning cast member from the original Christmas Story was the teacher. I'm not joking. The teacher was the only returning cast member, and that's the thing. Nobody remembers this movie. Nobody remembers My Summer Story. Like, it has the same characters, Ralphie and all that, but nobody, and I mean nobody, remembers this movie even existing. You can, like, find it on eBay and might get it for, like, either $5 a pop or maybe more because nobody remembers it. I think it's one of those, like, out-of-print movie DVDs that nobody cared about, and it's just nobody knows it exists. And then, of course, recently there was the third Christmas Story sequel, Christmas Story Christmas, which is extremely unnecessary because I guess Warner has to keep milking that franchise and keep milking the heck out of this movie that was just once a nice, innocent little Christmas flick that was one of my all-time favorite ones, and it just sucked the life out of it by making unnecessary sequels and unnecessary merchandise that just basically botched it. And speaking of which, A Christmas Story 2. which has Ralphie, like, I want to say 10 years older than what he was, like a teenager, got his own job and all this stuff. And it's basically like if Home Alone 2 was the same way. Like, it's rewritten, has the same lines, the stuff you remember from the last movie, but it is just completely bad. I'm not going to say a whole lot about it. This was never released in theaters, of course. This was just one of those direct-to-video DVD movies, and it was just painfully bad. It has Daniel Stern in it, but I guess you could say he starred in yet another sequel that was basically the same as the first. You know, Home Alone 2, Home Alone, and then Christmas Story 2. Anyway. So yeah, I'm not going to recommend this movie because it's terrible. Speaking of terrible, we're moving on to number 7, Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. Now, for any of you Mystery Science Theater fanatics that might be familiar with this movie, it's pretty bad. The whole idea is that Martians discover that, like, you know, Santa Claus is like the only person in the world to help the Martian children turn back into children again, or something like that. And it's bad. Even the production of it is just like really low budgetly cheap. And the Martians look goofy with their antenna. You see you literally see a guy in a polar bear costume. You can definitely tell it's a costume. And then a really cheap made robot suit. And honestly, it's just painfully horrible. But the funny thing is that, like, it seems like the Mystery Science Theater cast just cannot get away from this movie, because this would also be like riffed on Cinematic Titanic, which has the original cast of Mystery Science Theater, and then Riff Tracks, which is from another side of Mystery Science Theater. And so yeah, Santa Claus Conquers the Martians is definitely one of those painfully cheap, low. I want to say this was like in the 70s movies that people just really don't like. And speaking of movies that people really don't like, I really wanted to put this lower on the list, but with the amount of other movies that are horrible and people hate, unfortunately I had to put this at number 6, but it's still really widely hated, and for a good reason. Number 6, we have The Nutcracker in 3D, or also known as The Nutcracker Untold Story, or whatever. There are no words to describe this other than horrendously bad. But not only that, another way you could say this is, how did this movie get made into, you know, a movie? It's just mind-blowing of how someone like this would be able to conceive this as a children's movie, put it into theaters, and think, yes, children will enjoy watching this, and people will not make any connections of this to Nazis in World War II. I am not kidding. Literally, this entire movie, like, replaced Nazis with rat soldiers, and, you know, had a whole bunch of images of the Holocaust, of, like, instead of leaving their shoes in a pile and burning it, this time it was toys that were supposedly in life. And I don't know, this is like one of the most mind-bending ideas of a Christmas movie you could ever think of, and having connections of it to World War II in the most disturbing imagery possible. It's like, what the hell kind of a human freaking being would you have to be to make up of something like that and even make a concept of it? What were they thinking of making this? They literally had to be doing drugs while they were making this. And here's the thing. They had like $90 million in their budget to release this in theaters. You want to know how much they got back? They got back $16 million at the box office. That ain't jack. And I'm betting that they're still trying to, like, you know, get their money's worth of that, and they're never going to get it back. Because why would they ever have the decency to think, yeah, kids and adults won't think that this has any connections to do with World War II anymore? Because, oh my God, this was just like, I have no idea. This is almost, and it's probably forgotten now, just as, you know, Nutcracker in the Four Realms or whatever that movie was called. But still, the acting is bad, the effects were lame and nightmarishly horrifying in your night terrors. But again, why would you ever want to do something like this? Because, like, no test screen audience didn't think, oh my lord, this is horrible. Or, wow, this doesn't make me think of World War II and the Holocaust at all. But I'm sorry, but I should stop ranting about it. You should just go see the Nostalgia Critic's review on it, because he does it flawlessly. Because why? Just why? Just why? Anyway, aside from that rant, let's move on to number 5. Grumpy Cat's worst Christmas ever, and rightfully so. Of course, Grumpy Cat in its day was a popular meme or a popular, whatever. Grumpy Cat was one of those unique faces on the internet and even the world because like so many memes were made up of Grumpy Cat and I really do hope that like I'm 100% betting that Grumpy Cat had a very loved life, considering the face might say a different story. It just really makes me wonder if Grumpy Cat had any other like kitten siblings and where they might be. I don't know, but it is possible that it could be just that one unique cat that like just had a one go personality just on the face, and there probably were never any other cats that were similar to it because I think it's like a Siamese cat. I really don't know, but anyway, Grumpy Cat was one of those unique things, and it wasn't too long ago. I want to say a couple of years ago that Grumpy Cat had passed away, which is very unfortunate. But unfortunately, she had a movie of her own, and it had to be a horrible direct-to-TV Christmas movie. I remember watching this. I remember being excited when this was coming out, being like, oh, look, Grumpy Cat, because that's popular, and it's going to have a Christmas movie. It's going to be funny. No. No, it wasn't funny. Nor was it entertaining. It was bad. It was boringly bad. I remember, like, I think my dad recorded it on a VHS for me just so we could watch it later. And, yeah, it was painfully bad. I mean, I guess you could say it was a good idea on paper, like having Aubrey Plaza doing the voice of Grumpy Cat. I can definitely say that's actually pretty good. It has some, I guess, amusing fourth wall breaking in it, but no, it wasn't good. It literally was a worst Christmas ever. But anyway, moving on from that, apocalypse, we're moving on to, oh boy, another horrendously bad Christmas movie that was only released once and never again until recently when a owner of this special released it onto the internet and they said, have at it. This is Rhapsody Street Kids Believe in Santa. This is one of those like painfully horrible Christmas specials that was released in 2002. And you know that even around the early 2000s or even like, around the 90s when Toy Story was relevant, that, CGI was, perfect for, its early CG concept. But in 2002, Rhapsody Street Kids Believe in Santa had the most horrendously ugly CGI to ever be conceived. And the thing is that this had like an extraordinary cast. It had, Jodie Benson, Nancy Cartwright, the voice of Bart Simpson, Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker, and a whole bunch of others. And Nancy Cartwright was also, a producer on this. And the fact that like they made this and thought that this was okay, it's like, why? It's like, here's the thing. The voice acting isn't too bad, really. But the overall story and CGI in this was just, wow. It literally, like, even I could do a better job if I knew what to do on CG, or CG school, or, like, CGI animation, whatever. But still, the fact that this was made and that they were planning on high hopes for making a sequel of, like a something bunny special or whatever it was, I don't remember what it was, but it was absolutely horrendous. It was terrible. It was horrible. Once again, you need to see the Nostalgia Critics review of it because it's pretty, yeah. But yeah. Anyway, next at number 3, we have The Christmas Tree. Now, again, this is one of those movies that may have just a generic title to a Christmas special, but this is like I want to say like a mid to maybe early or even late 90s movie where it seemed like one of those generic 90s animation films, but this is surprisingly worse than Rhapsody Street Kids. Because like the animation is horrible, the story is horrible, and even the voice acting is just lazy, horrendous, and child actors just like slur their lines basically. You don't understand what they're saying. The animation's bad, the story's bad, and just like everything about it is just horrible. Once again, you have to see the Nostalgia Critics review of it because it is just bad. Even I watched it all the way through, suffering through, and I was like, why did I watch this all the way through? But anyway, Next at number 2, we have last year's recent Disney Plus movie that people deem to hate, Home Sweet Home Alone. This is literally the 6th Home Alone movie and has the most unlikable Home Alone character ever, and has like the villains basically where you feel more sorry for them rather than the whole slapstick ouch they get hurt type of routine. I have not seen a whole lot of it, and I never want to plan on watching it, but from what I have seen people review of this movie since last year, they hate it. The main protagonist is unlikable, and the antagonists are more likable because you feel more sorry for them of a very sad concept. Again, I'm not going to get into it, but if you want to watch it for yourself or watch other people's review on it, go ahead, because I refuse to acknowledge any more Home Alone sequels to ever exist. I'm just sticking with the first 2 and maybe the 3rd one, but no more. I'm done with this franchise being milked because it is horrendous. Screw Disney and screw its franchise, because it has just been nothing but garbage lately in the past few years. And I'm not the only one thinking of that. My own personal opinion. Just saying. Anyway, aside from that, moving on to number 1. Now, it was hard for me really to determine like what the worst ever Christmas movie would be. In my own opinion, the worst I could possibly find would have to be like lowest budget, lowest quality, lowest concept of an idea or acting, or even like a setting or whatever. Santa Claus, or just Santa and the Ice Cream Bunny. Okay, yeah, I know, you're thinking, what? What even is that? And even I don't know what that is. I have not seen it all the way through, but from what I can tell, it's like in the, I want to say mid to late 70s, and it's just like in the lowest quality. Oh no, excuse me, it's in the early 70s, but it's in like the lowest quality. It has Santa Claus and it has a whatever the Ice Cream Bunny is. At first I thought it had to do something with like maybe the Easter Bunny, but no, it has nothing to do with the Easter Bunny at all. It's just a generic ice cream bunny. And from what I can tell, and from I believe I've seen riff on it, but it's bad. Nothing else from it. I know there's probably worse Christmas movies out there, and probably the ones I mentioned are even worse than this, but in my own personal opinion, any movie that has to do with unlikable characters or just a poorly written script or even a poor quality feature and all that, poor quality in the video, poor quality in the audio, or whatever, I deem that to be a failure that succeeds, you know? But, yeah. Anyway, aside from that, that's my own personal list of the top 10 worst Christmas movies ever made. Again, like I said, there's probably worse Christmas movies out there, and I don't doubt it. But again, this was my own personal list of like some of the worst Christmas movies that I could possibly find, both from reviews, critics, audiences, or even like other people, or even stuff that I've personally seen. But yeah, if there's anything that you really hated watching growing up, or watched as a Christmas movie, Christmas special, whatever, just let me know, because again, like I said, there's probably worse ones out there, and I don't doubt that there definitely is. But again, I hope you guys really enjoyed this, and if I don't make another Christmas episode the next couple weeks or whatever, I hope you guys have a Merry Christmas, Happy Holiday, or whatever. Then I'll see you guys in the next episode. I'll see you. Oh, really quickly, before I do take off, I completely forgot to mention one more thing on my honorable mention list. Christmas Vacation 2, Cousin Eddie's Island Adventure. Yeah, my dad and I were excited to watch that, and horrible. Very, very horrible. Aside from like a girl stripping in a lake and all that, but no. Aside from that, it was bad. Anyway, I hope to see you guys next time. I'll see you guys very soon. See ya.